The creator of Game of Thrones, George R.R. Martin, once said, "A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only one." This is a sentiment that I carry with me throughout my life and what fuels my passion for reading. My Cultural Artifact is one of my favorite books from the fantasy genre, Skullduggery Pleasant, Bedlam. Although you may not know this particular book, most of you have heard of Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, right? If you haven't read the books, then at least you've seen the movies. And it's stories like those from the fantasy genre that enchant and delight people everywhere to this day. I've been reading as many books as I could from the moment I knew how. So much of what I know today, I owe to my love of reading. Using this book as an example, I'll elaborate on its use, how it represents important values in my life and culture, and why I identify with it. Now for how it's used and part of the culture. I'm sure you all know how to read a book, but reading and comprehending is not the same thing. I could blast through a book in a day and say that I read it, but did I really have an in-depth understanding of it? Well, for me, that's what I like to get out of my reading experiences. I love to read a book and completely understand not only the plot, but also the main takeaways of the book and how that can be applied to my everyday life. These types of books can be found everywhere, from libraries to recommended book lists, and even in most people's homes. Many people enjoy the allure of a completely different world, one completely different from our own that has its own rules and its own characters. And stuff that doesn't exist in real life, of course it's going to be exciting, right? And for the important values and traditions, for me, reading invokes my imagination. And to completely immerse myself in a story, I often have to imagine it and visualize it in my head. Using my imagination, I can make the story my own. It's almost like the author's words and the whole plot are more like a rough outline, and my imagination fills in those blanks. Together, me and the author create a unique story that is all my own. And the more I read, I feel the more I cultivate my imagination. And it's the same with anyone. The more you read, the more you learn, and the more you can discover. And when it comes to thinking about new ideas and new thoughts, your imagination is the limit. Reading also represents the value of patience. Especially for these longer books, it may take a while to completely read through it, but the time you invest in it is totally worth it. It's a way to kind of escape from the pressures of real life, and it's a way to relax. And being patient and running through the whole thing, usually the author will want to keep you hooked onto the story, and if he's doing a good job, then you'll stick with it even if it takes you weeks to complete it. I identify with it because I've never had a bunch of toys to play with or many electronic devices to play on as I've been growing up. So reading was one of my main avenues of entertainment. My dad would take me to the library every day to get new books for me to read, which helped me develop my comprehension skills and just also my reading skills in general, my reading and writing skills. And I've made many friends from our shared love of books. Like, I met one of my best friends today because we were picking out the same types of books in the library. And like I said, what I love the most about it is the escape from reality. How I'm just able to completely dive into the book and experience that world as if it's my own. And when life gets dull or when it's really stressful, reading is one of the ways that I can relax. And to conclude, I wholeheartedly love reading, especially fantasy and science fiction stories. It's shown me the values of imagination and patience, and it's just a way for me to relax and de-stress after a day of working hard on college assignments, or maybe just when I'm having a real bad day or life is getting dull. I'll choose one of my fantasy books and dive in, and I think you should too. Even if you're not normally a reader, choose one, read it, and maybe you won't want to put it down. Thank you for listening.